My final thoughts, an injury update, and 5 predictions for Sunday against Denver are coming your way today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Well, folks, welcome in. This is the last conversation that we'll have before the Buffalo Bills host the Denver Broncos to open the playoffs wild card matchup in Orchard Park. We're going to give you my 5 predictions for Sunday. We'll talk to Dr. Kyle Trimble of Banged Up Bills about a very brief injury report. And we will start with my final thoughts for the game. But actually, before we get there, the NFL announced the All-Pro teams, the AP All-Pro teams, first and second team. And the Bills were not well represented. Only Josh Allen. And Josh Allen was the second team quarterback. Lamar Jackson from the Ravens, the first team quarterback. Lamar got 30 votes compared to Josh Allen's 18. And this is not a good sign that Josh Allen is going to be the NFL MVP this year. The same people who vote for the All-Pro teams vote for the NFL MVP. And every year since 2013, the first-team All-Pro quarterback has also been the NFL MVP. Since 1987, there has not been a quarterback named MVP who was also not the first-team All-Pro. Bruce Nolan brought that second tidbit to our attention on the Twitter timeline. So I would go ahead and calibrate your expectations, whether you agree or not. And I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you do not agree. But this is a pretty strong indicator that Lamar Jackson is going to be the NFL MVP, which means it won't be Josh Allen. I'm not going to sit here and have that debate right now. Obviously, I think it should be Josh Allen. I will simultaneously say that Lamar Jackson is fantastic and 100% had an NFL MVP caliber season, 100% had a first-team All-Pro season. But Josh Allen, to me, is the NFL MVP. As far as other Bills that received votes, now nobody else made the All-Pro team, first or second team. But Dion Dawkins at left tackle got 5 votes. Christian Benford at cornerback got 1 vote. Taron Johnson got 1 vote. And Reed Ferguson, the long snapper, got 1 vote. Kind of crazy to me that Spencer Brown didn't get any votes. My thoughts on all this, oh well. Go win 4 more games. Go win 4 more games, and boy, the petty from Bills Mafia will reach crazy levels. And I'll be right there with you. Promise you that. But got to win 4 more games, and that's what I care most about. All right, let's focus in on this matchup against the Denver Broncos. I've got some things on my mind. I want to kind of empty my thoughts, give you a thought dump here in this first segment. I got 5 things I want to highlight. Then we'll talk to Dr. Kyle Trimble. Got 5 predictions as well for you to close things out. The first thing on my mind is running back involvement in the passing game. For the Herd Mentality Substack this week, I put together my final report card for the Buffalo Bills, and I grade every single function of the team. Passing offense, rushing offense, pass defense, rush defense, special teams. I grade it all. I put together a bunch of metrics. I go through a lot of analysis. And one thing that really stood out to me in researching for those grades was the running back involvement in the passing game. The Bills were terrific in 2024 when targeting running backs. By the way, if you want to read that report card and all the other stuff we have in the Substack, there's a link in today's show notes that'll take you right to the Herd Mentality Substack, where I write 3-4 articles a week and give you even more content. So check that out in the link in today's show notes. But running back involvement in the passing game has been big. This year, 2024, the Bills, when targeting running backs, ranked number 1 in yards per attempt at 8.74, number 1 in passer rating at 139.1, number 1 in adjusted net yards per attempt at 10.91, number 1 in passing touchdowns with 8, third in yards at 647. And here's the fun number. All of those great numbers, they're 20th in attempts, 20th in targets to running backs, 74. It's also notable to me that the Bills, with all this running back production, 31st in screen attempts to running backs, only 6 completions on screens to running backs this season. This is going to break through even more in the playoffs. Throwing the ball to James Cook and Ray Davis and Ty Johnson going to be a big part of the menu. And it should be, especially against Denver, with how they play defense. A lot of blitz. They don't have great coverage linebackers. Time to unleash your running backs in the passing game in a big way. I'm looking for that against Denver. And look, let's be honest. The path for Buffalo is Denver, Baltimore, Kansas City. That's how the Bills are getting to the Super Bowl. 3 defenses that are very similar structurally with odd fronts. 3-4 looks, man coverage, and blitzing. This is going to be an important part of what this Bills offense is going to be in the postseason, throwing the ball to these running backs. Number 2, in terms of my big final thoughts here, Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir. I think this passing offense is going to go through those guys. I think you're going to see plenty of running back targets, but when Josh Allen is working the ball down the field, Kincaid and Shakir. And both of those players were kind of quiet down the stretch. Obviously, Kincaid had the injury, and they were careful with him. There's no doubt. When you look at Kincaid's snaps and where he played over those last few games after the injury before the playoffs, not nearly as frequently lining up in line. In fact, you saw a lot of Reggie Gilliam doing the Kincaid stuff. You saw a lot of Mac Hollins doing the inline Kincaid stuff. They're focusing in on the receiving upside here. And we even saw some of the screen opportunities that were in play earlier in the season to Kincaid really diminish down the stretch. I think a lot of that's coming here in the playoffs. Look for a heavy dose of Khalil Shakir and a heavy dose of Dalton Kincaid. Those are going to be the catalysts for this passing offense, and I think they should be against Denver. Again, Denver doesn't have great coverage linebackers. They have a good safety in Brandon Jones and an okay safety in P.J. Locke. You get some opportunities with Kincaid and Shakir on those guys. Jaquan Millen, a pretty good young slot corner, but not somebody that I think is going to erase Khalil Shakir. I think you got some matchup opportunities there. So I'm looking for these running backs. I'm looking for Kincaid and Shakir in the passing game. Number 3, in terms of my final thoughts here, it's playoff Josh Allen. It is playoff Josh Allen. Josh Allen's awesome. He's even more awesome in the playoffs. Josh Allen currently number 1 in yards per game and touchdowns per game among quarterbacks that have played at least 5 games in the postseason. 330.2 yards per game, 2.7 touchdowns per game. Nobody better. He's got a passer rating of 100 in the postseason. That's 7th best all time. All time. He's got the lowest interception percentage among quarterbacks that also have at least 20 playoff touchdown passes. The cape's going on, folks. And if Josh Allen isn't on a mission, then somebody's kidnapped him and put somebody else on the field. If Josh Allen doesn't feel slighted after all this, boy, dude's going to go scorched earth. And I'm ready for it. Number 4, let's talk a little defense here. Ed Oliver's the name. Ed Oliver's the X factor on the defense for me. this defensive line's got to make a bigger impact, not only than they have this season, but than they have in previous postseasons. Ed Oliver's the guy that I think can do it. Am I predicting that he will? No, I'm not predicting that. But I'm saying he's the guy that's heavy on my mind as where can you get more impact that you haven't this season and that you haven't in previous postseasons? It's Ed Oliver. And Ed Oliver had a great game last year against Denver, specifically against Ben Powers, against the run and the pass. I'm looking for him to be a big spark plug for this defense. And then number 5, Denver has to make choices on defense. Their defense is awesome, okay? I am not taking anything away from Denver's defense. They're the best in the league. However you want to measure it, they're going to rank really, really high. But they have to make choices on defense against the Bills. Let's not act like the Bills don't represent a huge problem for them. They want to blitz. They've been a blitz-aggressive team. Okay. Well, Josh Allen's number 2 in EPA per dropback when blitzed, and he's number 3 in passer rating when blitzed. The Bills have handled the blitz well all season long. In fact, they've improved as the season went along. Make your choices. You want to spy Josh Allen? Okay, everybody romanticizes about the idea of a spy, and the spy is supposed to be this player that suddenly can contain a quarterback. They typically don't. I'd love for Denver to spy and play defense with 10 instead of 11. Because not only does that player actually have to tackle the quarterback, how often does that happen? How often does Josh get tackled one-on-one by a spy? Not very often. But if you're going to commit a spy, that means you're committing one less player to either coverage or your rush. Great. Great. Make them pay. Make them pay. Number 3, they like to run man coverage. They have a great corner in Pat Surtain, probably the best in the NFL. He is minimized in a game like this because what Pat Surtain can do is take away a number 1 receiver. Well, okay, cool. Who you want to take away? Doesn't matter. This isn't like previous years where the Bills show up and play Kansas City and the passing game is all about Stephon Diggs and L'Jarius Sneed wipes away Stephon Diggs, and now you got to figure out how to play offense and move the ball in ways that you typically haven't had to all season long. That's not how this Bills offense is built. So those are the things burning up my mind right now. Running back involvement in the passing game. Kincaid and Shakir is the catalyst for the passing offense. Playoff Josh Allen, Ed Oliver, and let's be mindful of Denver and their own challenges with facing Buffalo's offense and how they play defense and how the Bills can take advantage of that and how they have taken advantage of that this season. All right, coming up next, Dr. Kyle Trimble. We're talking injuries, not a long report, but I want to get his thoughts on Brandon Codrington. And I'll also share some thoughts on what I think the Bills will do if they don't have Brandon Codrington on Sunday. Folks, be sure to stick with me. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you tired of the endless waiting, wondering, and worrying about your taxes? Well, now that's a thing of the past. You see, taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. No more waiting for answers. No more wondering if you're missing out on deductions. Whether you've got one form or 20, TurboTax experts give you the undivided attention that your taxes need while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on what really matters. You won't have to lift a finger, but you'll get the peace of mind knowing that your taxes are being handled by the pros. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head on over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert who's ready to take your taxes off your plate so you can focus on your day. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees. It's playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where Prize Picks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the games, Prize Picks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on player stats like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can take your picks or make your picks in less than 60 seconds. And whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want to cash out quickly, Prize Picks has got you covered. And with over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. I've been playing for a while now, and I'm having a blast. It's easy to use, and I love how fast the payouts are. Seriously, I've gotten paid out in as little as 15 minutes when my picks hit. Plus, the weekly promos like Taco Tuesday discounts add even more value to my lineups. Here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today. Use our code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use our code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. I'm joined now by Kyle Trimble. He's a doctor of physical therapy. He runs bangedupbills.com. You can follow him on Twitter at bangedupbills. He joins us each week to get ready for the upcoming game from an injury perspective. And Kyle, this is kind of what dreams are made of. The Bills are entering this postseason very, very healthy. One exception, punt returner, kick returner, Brandon Codrington. He is listed as questionable, has a hamstring injury, got injured against the Jets, did not participate on Wednesday, limited Thursday, limited Friday, questionable for Sunday. Your thoughts on his availability?
It's a big up in the air right now. We've seen a lot of things that are trending in the right direction. There's a few things that could play against him. Briefly recap, he injured his what appeared to be his left hamstring on the final kickoff return against New England in Week 18, and he didn't really show anything. There wasn't anything really hugely notable unless you were looking for it. But he had confirmed with Alex Brasky and Matt Bovee that he had hurt the hamstring on the final kickoff return. He said it tightened up on him, which keep in mind, like there's different severities of hamstring strains, and it looked pretty mild. And unless you were looking for it, you weren't going to see it on film. He did not practice on Wednesday, was limited on Thursday, running around a little bit. And on Friday, he said he did some more run around, and he's feeling like he's back to normal. He said ultimately that the chances for him to play are up to the coaches and training staff. He has a few things going for him, a few things going against him. The things going against him, because we'll start with bad news, or the downside first, is most guys who suffer hamstring strain historically do not play the next week. That's just how the data has shown out from what I've gathered since 2017. He is a rookie. They tend to be a little more conservative with some of those rookie guys versus maybe some more of the vets there. And then on top of that too, it's gonna be really cold. I can't remember exactly what the high is going to be on Sunday, but I mean, it's frigid right now. It's, single degrees at night, 10, 20 degrees during the day. It's just not fun to be around. And that's not going to help out with, prior injuries, especially soft tissue ones. The positives is that he was able to ramp up and do a little bit more and more every day. There is precedent for guys to play after not practicing on Wednesday and play coming off a hamstring strain. Guys including Micah Hyde, who's done that twice, Quentin Morris, Sam Martin last year. He was a unique case because he was a punter and they didn't really have many options. And then Taiwan Jones, for example. Now, all those guys were playing mainly special teams when they were doing that stuff. Special teams were only seeing a handful of snaps a game. Codrington only has to run forward. He's not going to hopefully have to play defense, which running backwards, cutting, things like that. So do you put him out there knowing that, hey, you have a very limited role, make sure you keep your legs, warm and make sure you're not tightening up. And is the hamstring injury minor enough? Like you said, it tightened up on him. It wasn't a full blown, grade 2 strain or anything like that. Do you let him get out there and then hope that he can get through the game and then get ready for next week? Or do you say, hey, we're going to have a contingency plan. Let's let somebody else return the punts and kicks. And then let's get you ready for next week to make sure you're fully healthy when you might be more needed. So he's been trending in the right direction, but I can still see them holding him out just because of what I said that, things are going against him with that. But it's the playoffs and you would hate to have somebody be held out and then you could have used him whenever. So common sense says he sits out, but I could see a very realistic situation where he does play based off of the fact that it's a minor, and then he was able to increase all week saying he feels normal.
I will add some commentary here. If the Bills do opt to sit Codrington this week, I think everyone's question becomes, who's the punt returner? Let's start with kick return. I think that'll be Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. In fact, it's really kind of went more their direction lately anyways when it comes to the kick return element. As far as punt return, my guess would be Khalil Shakir. I think KJ Hamler is in contention, but it's probably one of those two. KJ Hamler would be a practice squad elevation. So if you see KJ Hamler elevated on Saturday, then you could pretty much know that Brandon Codrington won't be playing. But if you also, there's a world where they could just trust Khalil Shakir to handle that job. which would be my suspicion. I think the Bills are going to value experience. Shakir's got a lot more recent experience doing punt returns than KJ Hamler. Hamler really hasn't played in games in a long time. That'd be a big stage to put him on the field for, and I think that's why, predictively, I'm going to think that Dwayne Carter's probably the defensive tackle that they don't wind up playing as part of the rotation. I think they'll lean into the veterans, and that's why Damar Hamlin's going to continue to be the starter next to Taylor Rapp. They're going to value that experience with veterans in these big moments. So that's what I think the Bills will do if they don't roll with Codrington. I know that a lot of people want to invoke the name Micah Hyde. I just don't think they're going to put him out there. I just don't. So if I'm wrong, spike the ball, tell me I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be Khalil Shakir if Codrington doesn't go. Now, Kyle, this team is unbelievably healthy, which is not exactly what we've been able to say about the team entering the postseason in recent years. How does it stack up? I know you have some information on this.
It stacks up really favorably, and I'll tell you, this is the healthiest they've been in some time. This has almost made me redundant, which isn't a bad thing when you consider all the things I've talked about over the past few years on this podcast. The fact that I don't have a lot to talk about is a great thing heading into the postseason. So looking back at all the data, this is the healthiest they've been since 2021. And I factored in the number of injuries that were on the injury report, how many guys were questionable, how many guys were, playing that week, and then kind of just what it looked like there. So 2022, 2023, they had a lot of guys beaten up, and they're kind of just limping the postseason from an injury perspective. 2021, they were looking fantastic, and that's unfortunately the 13 seconds season. Heading into week 19, they only had which was a wild card game. They only had Emmanuel Sanders dealing with a right knee injury, and then the week after that was F.A. Abada with an ankle, Mario Addison with right shoulder, and then everybody else was at rest. I mean, they were incredibly healthy, and arguably they probably should have won the Super Bowl that year with how healthy they were. So the other one that stacked up at all was 2019, that wild card loss to the Texans. And they had a few guys questionable then, but I mean, if they don't make a deep run, it won't be because of injuries. They're healthiest they've been. They have all the starters. They have one guy in injury reserve, and Balin Spector, who has been just a reserve player. Even in 2021, they lost Tre'Davious White. So I would say they're even better than 2021. So if you don't make a good run, or if you have some type of awful injury luck this week here, like we saw with Pittsburgh last year, I just don't know what else you can possibly do, because they have the talent, they have the health, they have the play calling, they have everything available to make a deep run to even the Super Bowl.
Well, it's quite the transition from all of the comments at me all summer long about fire the strength staff, fire them all, right? Team's exactly where they need to be from a health perspective entering the postseason. Let's do it again next week. Get ready for a divisional round matchup at Highmark Stadium. Dr. Kyle Trimble, thanks as always for coming on and sharing your expertise.
Thank you, Joe, and go Bills.
From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, make same-game parlays, and so much more. FanDuel has so many different ways for you to pick up a win. I love betting on which players hit the over on stat projections and if a team will cover the spread. It's thrilling. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. They got the Bills as an 8.5-point favorite against the Broncos. If you think they cover that, go get in on the action. Of course, all the playoff games, all the props available at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, folks, it is prediction time here on the podcast. Before we get there, I would love to extend an invitation to you to join the Locked On Bills sub-text community. It's a great time to get in on that because you get a lot. First of all, you get my in-game text. When the Bills are playing Denver, after every single series, I'll send you a text, let you know what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, what I'm seeing, all kinds of stuff like that. You also get the all 22 review clips. So on Monday, I spend all day watching the tape, and part of that is taking film, taking plays, and doing voiceover analysis to show you different things that I'm seeing in the game. You'll get an entire file. It's anywhere from, a half an hour to 50 minutes long that you'll get of me breaking down the key plays from the game. You also get my text throughout the week. And with that, you get my first reaction to all Bills news. So today, it's Friday. I'm recording this podcast. People got a text from me about the injury report and Brandon Codrington's availability. Jamarcus Ingram and Sean McDermott sharing the update that he's been out because he welcomed the new baby to the earth. And, of course, the all-pro teams when that happened. I sent out a text about all these things, so you get those right to your phone. I'll keep you updated on all Bills news. You don't have to go to social media to find it. When it happens, I'll send it right to your cell phone with my first thought on that. Plus, you get in the Discord channel. You've been hearing about this, the Herd Mentality Discord channel. 1,500 Bills fans in there talking Bills. There's a book club. We talk Sabres. We talk general NFL draft, cooking, whatever, all kinds of stuff. It's a great community with Bills fans across the globe. You got a chance to kind of see some of that on the podcast yesterday when in the third segment, Aaron from Wales had to come on and, we have a fantasy football league in there and he was the last place finisher. He was on yesterday's podcast singing the shout song. We got a great community having a lot of fun. So check it out. Subtext, link in today's show notes to be part of that. Also, I announced last week that we were having a contest. And if you were to make a YouTube comment of Go Bills, I would send somebody a hoodie from the Herd Mentality shop. And that happened. Kyle was the winner. I've already contacted Kyle, and the hoodie's on the way. It'll be there between, I think, around the 16th is what the folks said to me. So that's on the way. Just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we did that, and we have a winner. Thanks to everyone who participated. I think we had over 1,600 people participate. All right, let's get to these predictions. I have 5 predictions for you regarding this game on Sunday. Number 1, I predict that Josh Allen becomes the NFL's all-time leader in playoff rushing yards by a quarterback. It's only 32 yards away to pass Steve Young for the all-time leader in playoff rushing yards by a quarterback. So I think Josh Allen, look, I always try to tell a bit of a story with these predictions. I think Josh Allen's legs and running the ball is going to be an important part of the recipe, not just against Denver, but for the postseason. We always see that crank up a little bit. I think he tops the 32 yards to get there. Number 2, this is a fun one. I predict that Dawson Knox scores the first touchdown. It's obviously an aggressive prediction, but in the last 4 years, this is crazy. Dawson Knox has scored the first touchdown and points of the playoffs for the Bills. He has a first quarter touchdown against the Steelers, the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Colts. That's crazy. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but we're at 4 and counting. The streak's got to continue. Dawson Knox is scoring that first touchdown. So an aggressive bet, but it's also a really fun story to tell. Like, that's crazy that Dawson Knox has been the guy that has scored the first touchdown of the playoffs 4 years in a row. Let's make it 5. Number 3, I am predicting 150 rushing yards for the Buffalo Bills against Denver. That would be the most given up all season by the Broncos. And Denver's defense is really good. I think the Bills can really stress this defense in unique ways that they haven't seen this year, and in particular, the run game. The Bills ran the ball well against Denver last year. Latavius Murray, remember that guy, and James Cook combined for 177 rushing yards on 21 carries. I think that James Cook and Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, and of course Josh Allen, will produce 150 or more rushing yards. I think with Denver, they're very good defense, but I don't know that they have a ton of size up front. They have, don't get me wrong, John Franklin-Myers is a great player. DJ Jones, a really good A-gap defender. Zach Allen's got good, but they don't have like the type of space eaters. They're more of a quickness, be stout. I just don't know that there's going to be enough there that's going to truly bottle up this Bills rushing offense. And I think it's going to be an important part of this recipe. So put me down for 150 rushing yards against Denver. And look, even I know this is not the last year, but last year you saw how leaky that run defense can be. It's happened a few times this year. I think the Bills can kind of get after them on the ground on Sunday. My fourth prediction is that the Denver Broncos, who led the NFL in sacks, they had 63 sacks. That's 3.7 per game. I predict that they have 2 or less sacks in this game. 2 or less. So obviously that's about half of what they normally do. And obviously they have a great pass rush. I think the Bills are uniquely designed to kind of handle a lot of that with what they have at tackle in Dawkins and Brown, with Josh Allen, who's great at avoiding sacks, with the pass-catching backs that they have, with a slot player like Khalil Shakir. I think the Bills are going to be okay. They're not going to sit there and get all of a sudden just get sacked all the time. So put me down for 2 or less sacks for Denver on Sunday. Then lastly, do I think the Bills win and go on to the divisional round, or is this where the season ends? I do think the Bills win this game. And I could go through a lot of different things about matchups and what the Bills need to do to win the game, and I have. I did the primer on Wednesday. We had the crossover Thursday discussion. I touched on Denver on the Monday show. We've been talking about this all week, but I think in its most simple form, here's the deal with this game. This is a Buffalo Bills team that is as battle-tested in the playoffs as any team in the NFL that's not the Kansas City Chiefs over the last 5 years. Nobody else has more playoff experience than this Bills team. They're at home. And they're going up against an up-and-coming Denver team that's in the playoffs for the first time in 9 years with a rookie quarterback. I think a lot of Bo Nix. I think he's really good, and I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to have a great career. But is he really going to go into Buffalo and knock off Josh Allen of the Bills in his first career playoff start? I just don't think so. And so, yeah, there's matchups. There's all kinds of stuff to get into. I think it's as simple as a seasoned, battles-tested number 2 seed with Josh Allen at quarterback at home against a rookie quarterback that hasn't been to the postseason as a team in 9 years. That's what gives me the confidence in the Bills winning this game. And so there you have it. Looking forward to getting ready for a divisional round game with you next week. Obviously, we'll react to this game on Monday, all 22 review. You know what's coming. And with that, the hay is in the barn. Folks, we've done all we can to get ready for this game. The only thing that's left to do is for the Bills to go out there and win this thing, log another playoff win, and probably get ready to host the Baltimore Ravens in the divisional round. And boy, what a matchup that would be. Lamar versus Josh Allen in the playoffs. We've seen it once. Josh Allen won it the first time. I'm sure the Bills would love to have another opportunity, especially with, you think about this all-pro thing. You think about the MVP discussion. Woo! Boy, what a week. What a week that will be. Hopefully we get there. Got to take care of the Broncos first. All right, folks, that's it. Thanks for being here. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills, and I look forward to catching up with you again after the game.